Okay, it's really amazing to see how the Parsha really connects to our lives and to really see that Hashem is guiding us in every step of the way. So although today I am on a total spiritual high, I'm pretty much a little tired. I am also very elated to share what I the experiences both that we have had and also the experiences that I have or that I able to see through the parsha of the week. So with that, we'll start. We have today double because we have two parshiot this week, as you see, and everything comes in perfect timing. So anybody knows what the name of the parshiot are? Vayakhel and Pekudei. So it's interesting because with this week's parsha, we finished the book of Shemot, and it seems like yesterday when we were just finishing Bereshit, literally it feels like it was yesterday, and I don't know how many weeks already went by. But the book that begins with the slavery of Egypt, that's what the whole book of Shemot began, it ends with something extraordinary. And that is that this is the divine presence dwelling among the Jewish people. Now, the Torah's ending is not simply a story about a building. It's not only speaking about the Mishkan as a nice building that we built. It's not about completion or reaching in a certain place in a physical realm, but it's actually about a spiritual journey. So it's also speaking about how fractured people rebuild themselves and create a space where God can dwell. Because if you think about it, what did we speak about it last week? We spoke about the golden calf, right? We spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu. What we have been speaking about the last few weeks is basically the story of the Jewish people, right? I'm talking about from the beginning of Shemot, Salom. So the Parsha opens with a powerful phrase, and I'll read. Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. What does that mean? Moshe gathered the entire congregation of Israel, everyone. Now, just a short time ago, we were speaking about the nation's experience of a tremendous trauma, and we spoke about the golden calf. And it's very interesting because we have seen this double thing that the Jewish people have been going through. In one hand, we're close to Hashem, we experience miracles, and 5 minutes later, we're like, okay, thank you, but let me go serve an old golden calf. What is the story? What's going on here? So we're going to look deeper today. What is the story of the Jewish people? This gathering is extremely significant. Um, and we see that the trust had just been broken between Hashem and the Jewish people. The covenant that we have with Hashem, with Matan Torah, had been shaken. So the first step towards rebuilding is not construction. It's actually the first step is gathering. And if we put this into our personal lives, we all have this or have, hopefully not anymore, but this place of discord or disconnection with the person that we love, right? Thinking about a friend, a partner, a parent, a child, a significant other. And you don't just go straight into hugging when there are hard feelings. There needs to be something in between. And what is that in between? Is gathering, being able to even come to the same table. Because think about a friend that you fought with and the person doesn't even talk to you. How are you going to build or how are you going to close the gap that now is between the two of you? You first have to be able to come to a common table. I could hear you, you could hear me if you can. And then hopefully we could find a place of connection, right? So here, what we see is that Moshe brings everyone together again, the idea of unity. Because before building the Mishkan, a sanctuary for Hashem, the people themselves must become a community, united. So Mishkan cannot be built through division. It could only be built through unity, shared responsibility, and collective purpose. And literally, this is exactly what I experienced 2 days ago. It was unity, every single shul, representation of every single shul. It was a shared responsibility of what we all carry, which is the idea of chinuch, learning Torah, shidduchim. Every aspect that we were doing that night was hitting a place on how we get together. So I literally, when I was preparing the class, I'm like, wow, this is unreal. That is, it fell exactly on the same week. When we chose the date, we think it's just down because Tasman Sivan could come to New York. I just book her. But the reality is that it's timed. It's really timed by Hashem. We had spoken to Sivan previously 3 or 4 times to book her, and we were almost to book her, and the space didn't respond on time, and she was booked. Twists and turns for the whole year. And it was exactly on this parsha that we were able to experience this tremendous, tremendous unity that it felt, besides the beauty of the event, it was the continuity. And for those of you who were not there, I'm very sorry I didn't think about it before to just make a table for you guys just to come. Sometimes wisdom only comes in hindsight. But Baruch Hashem, we have a beautiful video, and I'm going to be sharing so you guys could partake part of this video. We also thought to live stream it, but then that needs a whole set of other tech people, not me. And that was the idea. The idea of the event was Torah, prayer, unity, and connection. So it fell exactly on the right week. And this is a message that echoes across Jewish history, where there is unity, the Shekhinah and the divine presence rest. Whenever there is no unity, Hashem literally runs away. It's not a place of discord. Hashem does not want any part of that. And we need to think about personally where, because I think worldwide we're doing a pretty good job, right? Although there is always politics that come in and they come out. But I think personally we could see where in my life can I reconnect, whether it's me and myself, when I'm fighting myself, yes, not good enough, not good enough. Where it's me and somebody else, where am I life not talking to somebody or just giving a, cold face to someone. And whether it's between me and Hashem, where am I not bringing Hashem into my life? So that was the first point that I wanted to bring from the Parsha. Second point is, very interestingly, that the first command, again, is Shabbat. And before Moshe even speaks about the Mishkan, he reminds the people again about Shabbat. So why is the story, again, placing Shabbat here in the midst of, think about we're talking about Shabbat versus the house of God. So why are we placing Shabbat first? So the reason is because the Torah is teaching us something fundamental, that even the construction of the Mishkan, the holiest physical structure, cannot override Shabbat. And if you think about it, what is it that we don't do on Shabbat? All the melachot in order to build the Mishkan. That's exactly what we're not doing. It means that Shabbat takes precedence to building Hashem's home. How could that be? So let's look inside. Shabbat teaches us that holiness is not only created through what we build, but it's also through how we live in time. It's how you live your life. That's how you build the Mishkan. Mishkan is not the ultimate place where I'm going to gather all the stuff to put a nice building. Hashem doesn't care so much about, although the Mishkan and the temple are gorgeous because we give our best, and obviously a place of Kedusha needs to be a place that is befitting, but that's not the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is who you are and how you behave and who you're becoming, planet Earth. That's really the ultimate. So Shabbat teaches us that holiness is not created through what we build, but it's also through how we live in time. So the Mishkan represents holiness in space, physical space, and Shabbat represents holiness in time. As I just happened to mention, although nothing just happens, last week I mentioned, I diverted from my class and I said that Hashem created connections, and these connections where that Sunday had Monday, Tuesday had Wednesday, Thursday had Friday, and Shabbat had the Jewish people, right? That was the partner that we spoke about it last week. Because the connection of Shabbat, the Jewish people, is that we are partners with Hashem in time. Why? Because it is only through time that we could bring Kedusha into the world. If you don't have a interaction with Hashem, with time, then we're just not able to create and become a light unto the nations. We're not able to bring our stuff into the equation. It's not in space. I can't just make a nice, gorgeous building, a shul, gorgeous with gold and silver, and never show up. Has it helped anybody, right? It's better to have a shtibel, a tiny shul, that is filled with people, right? It's not the magnificence of the beauty of the building, but it's the warmth and the quality of the people. So we create sacred spaces, but we also create sacred rhythms in our lives. And Shabbat reminds us that ultimately God is the creator and we are here as his partners in the world. It's about becoming a light unto the nations. It's about bringing Kedusha into the world. It's about what you do with your time. And if you think about it, about a year and a half ago, we started doing, or we stopped, but we should go back. We were doing 10 minutes on halakha. You remember? Practical Torah, living Torah. Why we were doing this? Because we wanted to transcend the spiritual high that we get from the Torah and bring into practicality how to live Jewish. It means that your actions in time has tremendous ripple effect because that's ultimately what changes and permeates planet Earth. When you take your time and utilize it through Torah and you're doing a mitzvah and you're learning, you're actually changing the spiritual DNA of the world, like we have mentioned in prior classes. Okay, so we move on to the extraordinary generosity of the people and move on along with the Parsha. Moshe then presents God's instruction for building the Mishkan, and the response from the people is overwhelming. We know what do they bring. We need to pay attention. They bring donations. And it's interesting because the Jewish people bring donations from the three realms that this world is built in. We bring donations from the animal kingdom, we bring donations from the vegetable kingdom, and we build donations from the inanimate. It means this Mishkan is elevator every section of this world.
Wait, animal kingdom?
Animal, because they bring the skins of the animals, right? The goat skins of the animals. The dyes, the wool, is all the purple, the red, they were all natural dyes. It means from the vegetable world. And we also bring stones, precious stones, which is from the inanimate. So the world, the physical world, biologically is divided into inanimate, vegetable, animal, and human. And it is through those four realms that we actually elevate in the world, right? So it's interesting that that Mishkan, that house of God, cannot just be made out of jewels. No. Hashem wants that every realm should be elevated and is represented by all the things that we donated. So let's see what we will donated. We donated gold and silver and copper. We donated blue, purple, and red wool. We donated fine linen, goat hair, animal skins. We donated wool, oil, spice, and precious stones. And I just want to share one point here is that every person could donate what they had, and so can we. It doesn't matter what part of the world you are intertwined with, the Ashkaha Pratit, what is your connection? Some of us donate jewels. Some of us donate things that are more physical. And it's interesting because the raffle on the event, we have 4 raffles. And we had a raffle from each part of we had raffle of jewelry, thanks to Mayan Sarabani. We had raffles of Torah, which was the book that you generously gave. We had a raffle of something pretty and physical, which were the sunglasses Tom Ford or Ferragamo, I have no idea. And we had the beautiful Moroccan oil bag that is all Moroccan oil is made out of seeds and smells beautiful and it's really great. So it was interesting to see that there was also obviously and the power that went into doing this event. So it's just interesting that a lot of times you think you're donating, oh, I can't make a donation because I don't have a 1.5 million to donate. You could donate your time. That is the human interaction. And that actually represents the Kohanim because we are all a gathering of Kohanim. Although we're not walking in the physical temple, you are walking on your temple, whether it's your persona, whether it's your synagogue, whether it's your home. That's a miniature sanctuary. So it represents the 3 of them. And then the Torah emphasizes something extraordinary. In fact, Moshe eventually has to say, and I read, let not man or woman make further efforts towards gifts for the sanctuary. He says, enough, die, must speak, finished. Imagine that moment, a community so inspired that their generosity becomes so overwhelming that they need to say enough, don't give anymore. And this teaches us a profound lesson. The Mishkan was not built from taxation or obligation. Think about New York, right? Now they want to tax us 75%, almost there, right? But it was built from willing heart. Hashem doesn't want to impose of you. You must give me half of your earnings. He says, tell me what you want to give me. And it's amazing because he's enabling us to give what we can. I feel good with that. I don't need to be the person who's only a minute and a half. Wherever I give is good. And this teaches a profound lesson that the Mishkan was not built on taxation or obligation, but it was built on the willing heart. And the Torah repeatedly describes those who gave as people whose hearts inspire them. When people give from the heart, they're not just contributing material, they are contributing their soul. So you're contributing from yourself. And it's interesting because we have so many mitzvot, right? And every mitzvah, you're elevating a different part of your body. As we know, the mitzvot are divided in 260, 365, and 248. 248 represents the lot aseh, right?
Negative.
The negative commandments, which represents your sinews and your veins, and the positive commandments represents your organs in your body. So that makes it 300, 613, which literally represents your body. But tzedakah actually brings it to a whole different level because tzedakah elevates. So it means like if you keep doing a mitzvah with a certain part of your body, you're elevating that part. But tzedakah elevates all of it because when you work, you're not working with your hand or with your eye or with one leg. You're working with your whole being. You have to think about it. You have to see. You have to talk about it. You listen about it. Every single part of your body is elevated. And that's why tzedakah is reaching the highest of the highest. So now we're going to move on into the next section, which is actually really beautiful, which is actually the building of the temple. And we spoke about it briefly last week about that the artisans who built the Mishkan are described as Chachamei Lev, wise and hearted individuals. This phrase is fascinating. Usually, wisdom is associated with the mind, but the Torah here connects wisdom to the heart because true creativity and sacred work requires both. Skill alone is not enough. And for those of you who are crafty, we have jewelry making, we have, right, art, we have decoration, art, writing, right? We have writing. We have every part cells, right? I could say each of us has a gift, your creative power. When is your creative power the highest? It's not when it's rational. Your highest creative power is when you go in the park and you separate from everything, you left your phone at home and you are inspired. So inspiration is your heart. It's not your head. So it's interesting that the Mishkan is not only about rational, but it's about inspiration. It's connecting the two of them. So when someone builds something holy, whether it's a sanctuary, a community, or a home, it must come from inner intention and devotion. And that's why the leaders of this work are Bezalel and Aholiab, who oversee the artisans and the crafting of every single detail of the Mishkan and the vessels. And we see that nothing is arbitrary, even every dimension, every material, every color carries spiritual meaning. As we're going to delve deeper in Mercy Hashem after Pesach, when we're going to start our Torah Geula, Cafe Geula, in which we're going to take every week 20 minutes to understand the building of the temple, the third temple. Obviously, we're going to look back in order to look forward, but we're going to zoom in and bring in actuality in our minds. We're going to make it palpable the building of the third temple, please God. So Mishkan becomes a physical expression of our spiritual reality. And how do we transform the physical into something sacred? I think it's hard. And I think that although we're building something spiritual, when we're in the midst of the physical, it doesn't feel so spiritual. And I could attest to one part of my life. When I exercise, I don't feel spiritual at all. I'm sweating. I can't wait for that video to be over. And she says, thank God I'm in this program that she says, come on, you could do it exactly when I'm like, okay, I'm done, right? Doesn't feel spiritual. But in order to have a vessel, a mishkan, whether it's your body, your home, or It takes time and it takes tremendous effort. Not always feels all glowy and all spiritualized, that hard labor. When after an event, my house looks like I have no idea what hit it, right? Because every door is open, every book is taken, every printer, like literally. That's why we couldn't hold the class upstairs today, right? Doesn't feel so spiritual. The day after the event, you don't feel so spiritual, although it's probably the most spiritual place you are. But it's about emptying and becoming tool to let Hashem's spirituality come in. But it's a physical and spiritual work together. So we see that one of the most beautiful details is that copper basin we have been talking about for years. The beautiful basin, that the kior that was made from the mirrors donated by the women. These mirrors were originally used for personal appearance. As you all know, the women used it to beautify themselves to entice their husband. And I go deeper, they were transformed into sacred vessels used by the priest in the temple service. This transformation carries a powerful message that Judaism does not reject physical world. We are not people that are supposed to go to a mountain and detach and feel a spirituality, aesthetics. Thank you. We are supposed to feel Hashem within physicality. And I want to take one tiny detour just to show you how much you could feel Hashem in the spiritual realm. There were so many Ashkaha Pratis about building this event that I could tell you that I saw Hashem in every step of the way. From the most spiritual end of it to the most physical end of it. It's interesting because one of the things that we needed, the event had two parts. The first part, we had like tables set up in one room, as you're going to see the pictures online. And we had these tables with like rows of vegetables, with the pickling jars, with the vinegar and the salt and the whole 9 yards to make it. It was beautiful. But in order to make it really up, we needed to have this butcher paper, brown paper. And Sarah's my witness. I didn't even think about the brown paper in advance. Don't ask me why. So Sarah kindly says to me last week, Rachel, call this gentleman. He's going to bring you the butcher paper and the papers and this and that. And I'm so excited. I called it. You have to call him by 2 p.m. And we were all working on a literally 5:30 in the morning until 12, 11. We were working nonstop. So I called him in 1:55 and I say, hi, how are you? Thank you so much. Sarah, give me your number. Can you please have, and I give him my whole list. And he says, when do you need it by? I said, can you just have it here latest Monday, like 10 a.m.? And he's like, my delivery day is Tuesdays. And I said, oh, thank you. So immediately I see my daughter. We work like this side by side. And we're both on Amazon next day. And she's like, I found it. We both placed the order because he said, I'll come here on Sunday. And as soon as you hit send, he says, deliver Wednesday. And I say, hey, Dios mío, how are we going to do this? And I call Nissan. Nissan is my 911. And I call Nissan. I said, Nissan, listen. He worked in catering before, so he like knows a lot. I said, listen, I need this butcher paper. I need it exactly. And he says, oh, Mrs. Ben-Shimon, I'm not in the building right now, but can you call Gerardi? There's one bolt in the basement that the last caterer who came to do a job left it behind, and we put it in a corner in the basement. Just make sure it's still there. Within 15 minutes, we had the bolt of the paper. So that is what I mean, transforming physicality into spirituality. It's not a paper. Yes, it made it look beautiful. But it's understanding and having bitachon that Hashem hasn't figured it out. Even if Amazon can bring it, even if the guys deliver it next year, even Hashem has a way to intertwine himself in your life if you allow him to do so. And I'm telling you, the cherry on the top of what we experienced this week. I literally feel like I need a week to just sit down and like record all the stories because it's not possible. It's literally not possible. So that's how you intertwine or you really bring about the spirituality that is hidden within this world. So Judaism does not reject the secular world. Instead, it teaches us how to elevate it. Gold, silver, fabric, wood, mirrors, paper, ordinary materials become vessels for holiness. And the Mishkan teaches us that physical world itself can become a dwelling place for Hashem if you allow it to do so. And now we move on into our Parsha Pekudei. And this Parsha is about accountability and integrity. Very important, very, very important. Why? Because the second portion begins with an accounting of all the materials used in the Mishkan. The Torah carefully lists the exact amount of gold, silver, copper. Why such a detailed bookkeeping? Why not just donate? Right? Donate. That's it. Because holiness requires transparency and responsibility. Transparency and responsibility. Listen on. Moshe, the greatest of the prophets, still provides a complete public accounting. This is how much gold did I get. This is how much silver. This is how much iron. This is how much. Every single thing, he did an exact amount. Why? This teaches us an essential principle in Jewish leadership that when something belongs to the community, it must be handled with absolute integrity. Means that trust is a sacred responsibility. You cannot be a leader if you cannot be trustworthy. Just can't, right? And so much so for governments and politics. Don't even get me started. But if you think about it, think how the world of leadership is so corrupt. In the place, that's why there's no Kedusha in it. Because it could only proceed. And those people that put Hashem first, those are the true leaders. And again, I'm not here biased. Everybody has a different political view. But just think which presidents in the world say Hashem first with God's help. Which of them are praying? Think about it. Which ones go to the Western world and pray? Not because I need a nice picture, but because they actually mean it. Which are the ones that stand even against the world, even if the whole world is against them, for the sake of the truth? Right? And from there, we move into something very, very interesting. And I will touch upon this in a deeper way today. The garments of service. We're talking Pekudei Kehuna, the Kohanim, right? And we have a Bat Kohen right here, a Ruti. So what is the garments of the service? The artisans also complete the garments for the Aaron and for the Kohanim. What do these garments include? And I have shown you plenty times pictures. The ephod, the headpiece, the breastplate with the 12 stones representing every sector of the Jewish community, the robe, the crown, the hat, the tunic, the sash that they put, even the breechers. Every single part of the garments of the Kohanim was important. These garments represent dignity and sacred responsibility. And it's interesting because even the breechers, right? The undergarments were important. And if you think about it, why the breechers? Why is this even important? What do I care? What is the Kohen wearing underneath? And the reason is because when they were going up in the ramps, everything needed to be covered. So in case when they lifted one leg, you could see something under, they had the extra pairs of pants underneath in order to cover, to show us the importance of what we wear, how we dress has tremendous, tremendous ripple effect. And it's interesting because it's not only how we dress, but it's also how we act. And if you ever see me on a bike, and I don't say hello, forgive me, I go very fast, you're going to see that a lot of times I ride in my back standing. And I'm riding the bike standing because my skirt. I have to keep an eye on the road and the crazy people. And the other eye, I have to keep it on my skirt. Right? And if I have a fitted skirt, I will walk before I take a bike. Because doesn't fit, right? So it's just important for us to see the importance of our baggage. And even though I never say what I say, look 1 second into your closet and look at that one part of garment that you could let go. I'm not saying throw the whole thing. I'm just saying you could elevate one part. And I tell you, I do it with my closet all the time. And you guys are like, Rahel, come on, you always nude. I could improve. I could improve. And I do all the time. I'm like, okay, but it's like, man, like That's like your favorite skirt. I say, yeah, but it's a little bit, 2 sizes bigger. Goodbye. I'm not even trying to get down anymore. That's it, right? Think about how you represent royalty into this world. Okay? So these garments represent dignity and sacred responsibility. The Kohanim serve as a bridge between heaven and earth. The clothing reminds us that the spiritual leadership is not about status, but it's about the service of Hashem. So now we turn to the completion of the Mishkan. When the entire Mishkan is completed, all parts are brought to Moshe. Moshe erects the sanctuary, he anoints it uh, with the sacred oil and inaugurates Aaron and his sons as priests. Think about it, anoints it with oil, right? Such a natural, supposedly not such an important thing. And inaugurates Aaron and his sons as priests. And then something extraordinary happens. The Torah tells us, look what happens after he starts with the Mishkan. The cloud covered the tent of the meeting, and the glory of God filled the Mishkan. The Shekinah returns, which is the goal has been reached. That's the whole purpose, that the Kedusha and the Shekinah of Hashem should dwell within the Mishkan. God's presence now dwells amongst the Jewish people, and after the rupture of the golden calf, the nation has rebuilt something sacred together. Because they were together, because he gathered them, now the Mishkan could come to be, not only as a structure, but as a renewed relationship with Hashem. So every step back that you have in your service of Hashem is only there to reset you even closer to Hashem. It's saying one step closer. And I could tell you that this week, although all the turns and twists of creating such an event and all the setbacks, my kids were floating around the house in and out, and I will just burst into my house. Every time something was like truly amazing, I will just walk into my house and will be screaming, I love you, Hashem. And my kids were like, okay, what happened there? And I will tell them the stories of Hashgacha Parati that I say, and they're like, right? So in a setback, when you say, Hashem, come on, I can't figure this out. I can't handle this. When you're able to do the U-turn and reconnect, that connection, oh my God, it's on a whole different level. You're so closely intimate connected to the Creator. You have reached a place where you were not standing ever before. And that is that connection. It's not going down and then up, but it's going down and then up, and then down and then up. And each up is higher than the one before. So what is the final image of the first Sefer Shemot? The book of Exodus ends with a beautiful and powerful image. A cloud rests over the Mishkan during the day, and at night appears as fire. Whenever the clouds lift, the people travel, and whenever it rests, they camp. Meaning that the cloud lifted and moved around, everybody will follow. The fire will lift and move around, everybody will follow. Wherever it stood, that's where it would stay. And we have mentioned in a prior class, and I want to only bring it for those of you who weren't there because it's such a simple but yet beautiful point, that when the Jewish people where Hashem will dictate how long they were in a certain place. So sometimes they will go to a place and stay there for 5 years, and then they will set camp and next day, let's go. Why? Why such a trouble to go to one place for so short and another place for so long? And this also represents our lives when Hashem brings you to a place for 5 minutes, and then when you're stuck somewhere, right? Sometimes you take a plane and your layover was supposed to be an hour, and you're there for 25 hours later, and you're still sitting on the same airport, right? They all come for a reason. Nothing is time in life. Because Hashem, in your time, is also deciding where you need to be to elevate what. So it says that the Jewish people were elevating the netzutzot, the sparks of godliness that were hidden in the desert by their stay. There were places that were deep down that needed a lot of work. Therefore, the Jewish people needed to stay and serve Hashem in a higher level for a longer time. And there were places that just needed a chick, quick in, quick out. And so too is in your life. When Hashem makes you remain in a stranded, and I'm not talking only physically stranded in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking even stranded in a part of your life. And you're like, come on, Hashem. I already worked on myself. I already pray and I already. Sometimes it's not the destination, but it's the journey. It's your being there. It's who you're becoming. It's how you're being transformed because of that setback. It's because how you're being transformed. And it is one of the biggest pieces of wisdom that I have heard that really has changed the way I see life. It has changed the way I experience life. And it also, and the outlook of the places where I find myself on a gridlock. Every gridlock in your life is for a reason. So sometimes it's not like, "Ah, okay, I need to pray more." Yeah, they obviously pray more. But sometimes it's about being more, being present in that stage. Oh, wow, Hashem still has me here. What haven't I done until now? Besides my prayer, what else, what other part of my life or my step can I elevate? So Mishkan becomes the spiritual center of the nation's journey. God travels with them. This is the ultimate message of the book. The story that began with slavery ends with divine closeness. If you take the book of Shemot from the beginning to the end, is the greatest transformation of the Jewish people. We came from the 49th level of Tumah to literally divinity. We're resting with Hashem. We went from our lowest place to our highest place. So the timeless lessons of the Mishkan was not only a sanctuary in the desert, but it represents a deeper spiritual truth that God says earlier in the Torah. What does he say? Listen on. Veyasuli mikdash veshachanti betocham. Make me a sanctuary and I will dwell among them. Hashem is not dwelling in the shul by himself when everybody leaves. Obviously, he's there, but that's not the ultimate purpose. Hashem doesn't want a pretty Beit HaMikdash, third Beit HaMikdash, to just be there, magnificent. That's not what the point is. It says, make me, for me, a sanctuary, and I will dwell among them. Now notice the wording. It does not say within it, it says within them. The Mishkan was a model for something much deeper and much greater, that every person has the ability to become a dwelling place for divine presence. It means he wants to dwell within you. When you're connected to him, when you're in Torah mode, when you're in mitzvah mode, he is with you. And when you're doing your physical task, which my personal example is my Costco. I guess I have been traumatized by Costco way too many times, right? You can carry the thing. But if you're doing L'Shem Shamayim, he's dealing with you right there. He's with you right there pushing that cart. So every person has the ability to become a dwelling place for Hashem, for divine presence, through our actions, our generosity, our unity, our intentions. We build sanctuaries not only in buildings, but we're also building in ourselves. So in closing, the Parsha begins with gatherings and it ends with divine presence resting among the people. That is the journey. When people gather with purpose, that's the idea. Gather with purpose. When they give from the heart, and everything I'm saying, we gather with purpose. We gave with our heart. Trust me, everybody who was in that room. I want to thank Irina and I want to thank Sarah Urbani, and I want to thank Doreen and Judy and all the ladies who were able to come. I want to thank my Torah class for showing up every single week, no matter what rain, snow, whatever is happening out there. You're here. So really thank you. That's giving from your heart. You're here present. When they build together with integrity and devotion, holiness emerge, and the divine presence finds a place to dwell. May we learn from the Mishkan how to build our own sanctuary in our home, in our minds, in our hearts, in our communities. And when we meditate, B'ezrat Hashem, very, very soon to see the ultimate sanctuary rebuilt in Yerushalayim. And especially now, this is one piece that I said on the event on Monday that I would like to just point to. You'll hear the recording. Somebody did a nice recording of it, and I'll share that. But one of the points that I said that this day was that that the unity, all these unity events that came to be, and what we have been able to bring together, the energy, honestly electrifying. And may we continue to strengthen each other. I want to really thank you for this space.